This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. The Fender Tone Master Pro saga continues. It feels slightly warm. I've been playing with it this morning. I've actually got a gig tonight which I'm going to try and gig this on. It's a relatively low-ish volume gig. It's at a hotel in Torquay, not Fawlty Towers. And it is 100 decibel limit. So I'm going to take the Tone Master Pro and the Henriksen Bud. I'm going to do a video on that later. Anyway, this video was initially going to be called "Is the Tone Master More Than Just Fun?" Because in Matthew Scott's video, a word that he kept using around a piece of gear that is £1,500 in the UK at Guitar Guitar. I think that's the cheapest you can get in the UK at the moment. I think the general price is £1,500. For a piece of gear that expensive, I don't think Fender were going for fun as the general outcome. So anyway, I've actually stumbled upon a couple of tones that I'm way more happy with than I had been getting. I've had it for a few days. I'm interested to see if you had any sense of what I was using in the introduction there. So one of those was not the Fender Tone Master and one was. So obviously one happened at night time and one didn't. So let me know if you think, I'll give, one of those was actually Helix. And if you want to leave a comment and guess which one was which, you can leave a comment now. Before I tell you the answer in just a second, flipping back and forth between the two, I felt like the general vibe was not hugely different. At times I could find myself preferring either or. Now the dark one at night was actually Helix native, but I think it goes to show that probably these can sound pretty much in the ballpark. In a mix, are you going to tell the difference? I don't know. So let me know what you thought on that. And if you got that right, well done. Maybe you leave a like on the video as well, or something, I don't know. If you're going to turn up to a party late, you should have a party trick. We all know that. Just look at Michael Barrymore. This is, at the moment, I think, the slight issue with the Fender Tone Master is that whilst the UI and stuff is looking fantastic and really decent to use, I've actually used the editor today as well. That looks great, works great. One of the big things that they were saying about this is that, you know, it's in all of the copy, this is the most powerful modeler in the world. I was messing around with it today and you wouldn't be able to tell that. Behind the scenes, there's quite a lot of power being dedicated to this seamless preset switching thing. So as I understand it on other devices, what happens is that you have your main kind of DSP, which is loading a preset. And to have seamless preset switching, you have to have a dormant chunk of DSP, which can basically switch between the two so that you don't get that gap in sound, which we're used to on quite a lot of other modelers. Now, Helix has a version of this where you can drop it down to using just one processing core, and then you can have like your preset on top. Axe Effects with Fractal have just figured something out in this realm. I've not tried it yet, but Leon Todd did a video on it. So that's kind of a unique selling point that the Tone Master had for about a day. Also worth bearing in mind, I think, that certainly it seems like Neural DSP feel targeted by the Fender Tone Master Pro, given that 12 minutes after launch, they decided to email us saying that they've dropped the prices. Initially, the Quad Cortex in the UK was up at $1649. They dropped it back down to $1499. So now the Fender Tone Master Pro is slightly more expensive. I do think the form factor of this is great, but as you're going to see, I'm going to show you in this video, when you're talking about it being the most powerful modeler in the world, there are things that you could do with the Quad Cortex, you know, like 4 parallel paths with an amp on each path and reverb and all that sort of stuff that you couldn't do on this. Now, when the Quad Cortex first came out, there was some little weirdnesses like the delays. You know, you could only use a certain amount of delays, and there's still some kind of DSP stuff going on where it's not always clear why you can't load certain stuff. So this is subject potentially to change, of course. This is, you know, launch. But at the moment, yeah, I'll just show you now what you can load into one preset if that's interesting to you. Okay, so here is an 80s clean preset that I dialed in for my gig. I'm actually running it in song mode now, which I'm kind of liking. More on that in another video. But right, we got a compressor, a Nashville overdrive, a phaser, a Fender Super Reverb, which does have a reverb built in, right, and trem. So that is taking up quite a lot of CPU power. Stereo tape delay, tape echo, ping pong, Trinity chorus, and a digital delay. So that is the sort of thing that you could run on an HX Stomp, right? You could run that definitely on one bit of the Helix. You could run that on anything, really. Now, you can see we're already coming into quite a lot of limitations in terms of what else we could run. So we could run, for instance, a Vox, right? So we could run that too. And now we're really pushing what's potentially possible here. Now, I don't know if Fender have actually talked about their DSP allocation, but that is not indicative to me of the most powerful modeler in the world. So other things that you could do, preset settings, we could run different signal paths. This is making a clicking noise for some reason, where you could have the instrument, you know, you've got different signal paths, which are kind of interesting. Drag this down to there. But on a Quad Cortex, you'd be able to do this with relative ease, I think. On this we can't really. So we could have two discrete kind of signal paths like that, but I don't think we'll be able to add additional drives over here. So in terms of, is that the most powerful modeler in the world? The way they've implemented it right now, let's be honest, I don't think that could be, right? So all we got is an amp, a drive, a phaser, two delays, a cloud reverb. You know, we've not got wild things going on there. I'll just plug into this second input, by the way, so you can hear that that is a discrete. Amp level, we turn that up. So definitely two discrete lines, and that's great and all, but on another device, probably you'd be able to cram a lot more than this in. A Helix could easily do this, and more. You can get 4 amps into a Helix. But anyway, maybe it's because I'm using a lot of effects there. So let's just go back here. So this is like my clean. So if we had less effects here, so now we've just got a drive, a phaser and an amp. Let's go, go back, preset settings, signal path type, and we'll go with that again. Can we add? I think you can only run one convolution reverb at a time, right? So deluxe reverb, amp only. I could go here, get up there. Okay, and then down here. So, no. 2 amps, basically, you're getting towards the limit of what you can do amp-wise. So unless they particularly do anything to change how they're allocating DSP, it's not going to feel like the most powerful modeler in the world. Let's be real on that. I think what it is possibly is that there's a hard limit on the amount of cabs that you can run, because we can add lots of heads. I say lots, but maybe the cab section is taking up more DSP than, so you see there I've got a bassman, separate cab, a couple of amp heads there, and then one of the bassmen, but it doesn't seem like we can easily run more than 2 cabs per preset, maybe. So I can fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this particular view. Let's just get rid of them all. If we didn't have any splits or anything like that, what would we end up being able to do? So let's set this to signal path, stopping me from being able to add even more. That might be enough for, you know, your normal user, but there do seem to be some either limitations in, or they're just doing things a bit different to some other people in some ways. Now, I just wanted to show you that one of the kind of counters that you might have to that is, well, maybe this stuff sounds, maybe they're modeling things way more accurately or doing stuff better than the competition, in which case that's why everything is taking so much DSP, which might be a valid argument. Let's just show you the difference between Fender's pitch tracking and pitch quality to that of Helix Native plus an octave. Right, so put the mix up full. you can be the judge of whether you think that necessarily sounds like Fender have a better pitch algorithm than Helix. And Helix, of course, those pitch algorithms are a couple of years old now. The Helix is, of course, an 8-year-old device. If you're wondering maybe why they might sound so different, if you look at the burden that this has on the processor, the diatonic and chromatic pitch shifters, etc. You've hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you know, many of them in, you know, one of the Helix ones would take up basically half a processor, so potentially their pitch shifting algorithm is quite light compared to the Helix, which obviously, coming from Digitech, the folks that made the pitch shifting algorithm for Helix, potentially, you know, went a bit overboard in making it as good as they could, possibly. Currently, the state of play with things, I don't think, to be honest with you, you necessarily know without looking under the hood that there are 8 cores in there. It doesn't seem like they're necessarily being used at their full potential. This, of course, is subject to change. All of these things in the modeling and digital space can be revamped and stuff, and that's completely to be expected. It's just right now that's what it is. If you're interested in kind of that sort of information, I'm trying to put out as much kind of detail as I can and help you to make a decision about whether it is that you end up spending, you know, quite a lot of money on a unit, or you decide, right, I'm going to wait and see how things unfold, because right now for me, whatever. Anyway, cheers.